Hey guys, Jude22 here, and this is our main event of Heat, and it's going to be a special match, and you'll see why in just a moment. Well, believe it or not, that's my good friend, Paul Levine. And I have a lot to say about Paul in just a moment, but right now we have his opponent. And I give you the man known as Y2J. Chris Jericho. So, yes, this is Chris Jericho when he first debuted back in 1999. So, yeah, for those of you that are accustomed to seeing the Chris Jericho from today, actually, yeah, this is what he used to look like back in the day. I mean, he had a longer head of hair, and you know, he was very boisterous on the microphone. But it doesn't take away from the fact how great he was in the ring. I mean, he was always great in the ring, but he was just never allowed to shine in World Championship Wrestling. I mean, he was a great cruiserweight champion, but the fact that, you know, he wasn't allowed to do, you know, what he needed to do to help him stand out in WCW just was a travesty, and pretty soon he moved over to the then World Wrestling Federation, and pretty much the rest is history from there. Even after the company changed its name to WWE, but that's another story for another time. But anyways, so yes, believe it or not, that's my good friend Paul Levine. Paul Levine. I've known Levine and his family for years, but I only know them through him. Apparently my dad and my grandfather before me, they've known of the Levine family long before Paul. They've known the family, you know, at the time when, I believe it was, you know, Paul's grandfather, Peter Levine. Believe it or not, Peter Levine actually used to wrestle for our company towards the end of his career, and then his son didn't want to be a wrestler. He actually wanted to, you know, go a different path, and one of the things that that Peter's son, later Paul's father, he would go on to own his own business, which, you know, good for him. I mean, if he wants to own his own business, I'm happy with that. I don't mind that one bit, but Paul wanted to follow in his grandfather's footsteps, and that's exactly what he's done. And I'm happy to say that upon signing a deal with our company, he also wanted to join our group, and we were more than happy to have him in our, you know, stable here. Anyways, let's get on with this matchup. And a spinning heel kick right to Chris Jericho by Paul Levine. Or I might just call him Paul, or I might just call him Levine for short. A backbreaker and neckbreaker combination onto Jericho. All but Jericho counters with a sleeper slam right to Levine. A back suplex on Paul Levine. Then a kick right to the back of Levine. So, you know, Levine is a great athlete, but there is no shame in him losing to Chris Jericho. I mean, come on, Chris Jericho is Chris Jericho. I'm sorry, but even against his younger self, even though it's his younger self, sorry, Chris Jericho is one of the best. I'm sorry, Chris Jericho is like one of the great wrestlers of all time, and he still is. I mean, he still is one of the great wrestlers, and you know, before it's all said and done, Chris Jericho will be in the Hall of Fame. First ballot. And Paul, a suplex on a Jericho. So for Paul, he's got to, well, that was just a great move by Chris Jericho. I mean, Chris Jericho just has that innate ability to deliver offense out of nowhere. And, you know, he just has that offense that can throw people off, even my best friend, Paul Levine. Oh, then he just stomps him right in the arm. And a spinning neckbreaker a la CM Punk. Well, I mean, for Paul, he's got to make sure he delivers his offense and delivers it well because, well... Oh, wait, what's he doing here? Wow, that's a unique submission maneuver, but it's illegal because, well, it's on the ropes. Wow! That is great athleticism on the part of Paul Levine. And now, wait a minute. Now he's got a Dragon Sleeper. Yeah, that's what it's called. He's got that on Chris Jericho. And he's got that cinched in tight. So Chris, you know, he better find a way to get out of this, because if he doesn't, well, Paul's going to put him to sleep. I mean, I've been put in the Dragon Sleeper, and it hurts. What? Are you serious? No way! Wow. He just made Chris Jericho tap out, did Paul Levine. Amazing. And now he offers a handshake to Chris Jericho, and wow, Chris Jericho's being a bastard, I'm telling you. But then again, he was like that in his younger days, really. So that should not come as a surprise, really. But the big shock is that he actually did beat Jericho with a submission maneuver. I suppose Paul was trying to look for an opening to use that submission maneuver on Chris Jericho because, well, I mean, let's face it. I mean, Chris Jericho has one of the most lethal submissions, known as the Walls of Jericho, and the moment he puts that on anybody, as well as my good friend Paul Levine, it usually would spell the end, but Paul would not have any of it. Instead, he decided to use a submission maneuver of his own onto Chris Jericho first. Well, anyways, that's going to do it for our show for Sunday Night Heat. It is Sunday night, by the way. Or, yeah. So, stay tuned for the next edition of Heat. This is Taju22 signing off. Have a good day, everybody, and congratulations to Paul. Alright. Have a good day, everybody.